Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to another one of my canal series. In fact, this is the start of a brand new series called Secrets of the Stroudwater. Episode 1 here today. The reason I'm doing that is because, well, it'll be a little bit of a while before I'm back doing my regular canal updates on the Cotswold canals, which are really popular here on my channel. Not a great deal happening with that yet, and that won't happen probably until the spring in the new year. On the recognition those are really popular, I thought, what can I do? What can I bring the viewers of West Country Wanderings in the meantime? I thought what I'd do is have a look at some of the aspects of the history of both the Stroudwater, and later on there'll be a series called Secrets of the Thames and Severn Canal, and we'll be having a look at different aspects of it. You're probably thinking, why isn't it called Secrets of the Stroudwater Canal? Deliberately left out the word canal, and there's a very good reason for that. Now this here is the River Frome. It rises in the Cotswold Hills, flows right through the town of Stroud, and it's a key marker of the Stroud valleys. But sometimes it's not known as the River Frome, but it is known as the Stroudwater, and it was from this river that the Stroudwater Canal got its name. So what does this river have to do with the secrets of the Stroudwater and the Stroudwater Canal? Well, as I say, it's from this river that the canal took its name, and it was round about 1774, 1775 that the Stroudwater was built. And it was built to serve the mills in the area of the Stroud valleys, and later on it became of national importance when it linked up with the Thames and Severn Canal to connect the two mighty rivers of the River Severn and the River Thames. But before all of that happened, before the Stroudwater Canal was built, there were other canals in this area. So where are we today? Well, we're in the county of Gloucestershire. We're not that far from the Stroudwater, linked up with the River Severn, some few miles to the west of here at Framelode. You'll be familiar with that, Upper Framelode to be precise, if you've been watching my Seven Ways series. But I'm actually in the village of Eastington, around a place called Church End, and over there once stood a mill called Church End Mill, and that is a vital piece of our story. Now, there were actually 3 attempts, not just one, not 2, but 3 attempts to build a canal to serve the mills in this area. And today our story will be all about a 3rd one of those, called Kemett's Canal. We may have a look at 2 of the others in other episodes here on the Secrets of the Stroudwater. Briefly, one of them was called the Cambridge Canal, nothing to do with the Cambridge arm of the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, but to do with a gentleman called Mr. Cambridge who lived at nearby Whitminster. It was all a bit of a vanity project, and we'll talk about that some more later on. But let's have a look at what remains of Kemett's Canal here near the village of Eastington. But firstly, who was Mr. Kemmett? Where did he come from? And why did he want to build a canal hereabouts? Well, actually, he was ironmonger by trade, not as in selling iron in a high street shop, but trading it. Now, you think where I'm coming from? Yeah, the trade is the important thing there. He was looking to build a canal so he could move his goods, and he got together with 3 other businessmen, not from the Stroud Valleys part of Gloucestershire, but near the Worcestershire border in the town of Tewkesbury, which we visited again on the 7 Way series here. And he had plans to open up the River Severn and get the trade in to serve the mills hereabouts. The first one is at a place called Frombridge near Whitminster Church. But this one here, at where Church End Mill was, near the village of Eastington, on the edge of it, near the church itself, are some remains of it. Now, Mr. Kemmett, Mr. John Kemmett, was an incredible visionary. In fact, what he decided to do on his new canal here inside the town of Stroud in Gloucestershire was actually world-breaking and world-leading. In fact, what he designed has implications for how we live our lives today. It's that incredible and that fundamental, but I'm really surprised that this story of the Kemet Canal is not more widely known, shall I say, for that reason itself. Now, the mill owners in this area, both at Frombridge, here at Church End, and later on, which we'll see at a place called Bonds Mill, were very perturbed about his plans. They relied on the water from the River Frome or the Stroudwater to power their mills. Any disruption to that by building a canal and siphoning off water to use it in a canal would have reduced the water flow, which got quite low in the summer periods, and they thought we wouldn't be able to use our mills. So there was a lot of objections from the mill owning community and the people that worked and relied on the mill's output for their livelihood. Now, he came up with 5 key concepts to use for his new canal in order to keep the costs down as low as possible. The first one is to utilise this river, the River Frome, the Stroudwater, as much as possible. That was his first tenement, if you like. He also decided to both straighten, which we'll come on to later in the video, and deepen this river to enable cargoes to be transferred across it. But what about appeasing the objections from the mill owners? Well, he had a very unique solution to that indeed. Now, what he decided to do was bypass each mill by digging a separate channel of the River Frome. So you have what's called the mill race, which is the stretch of water which approaches the mill, and that was used to turn the mill's water wheels. So you then have a separate stretch of water which then went through a weir, went along a bypass around the mill and joined up with the original line of the river, what's called the tail race at the other end. But you're probably already ahead of me. How do goods get through a weir? Well, to that is where he applies its outstanding intelligence to come up with a very unique and quite brilliant solution. Now, as I've been doing this pits to camera, you probably noticed some water moving in the background somewhere over there. I now superimpose some shots I've taken using my telephoto lens to get a better shot of it. That weir there is the work of John Kemmett, and it's one of the outstanding features of the remains of the Kemet Canal here along the Stroudwater or the River Frome, predating the third attempt to build a canal here, predating the Stroudwater by some, well, probably around 20 years or so. But this weir here, and another one we'll look at later in the video, the remains of it. Still doesn't answer the question though, how did he get his goods around that weir? Well, what he did was to build a crane on the corner at the junction of where his new bypass channel left the course of the mill race, and then would lift the goods out of the barges in containers. Now that's a key word, containers. And then swing the arm of the crane around over the weir and then plonk them into a separate barge which was sitting in that bypass channel that went around the mill. It could then float on around to wherever it needed to go until it got to the next weir and mill. This is the first time ever in the world that containerized movement of goods has ever been attempted. So let's just stop to appreciate fundamentally about what John Kemmett had actually achieved here at Eastington and also at Frome Bridge, and what we'll see later on at Bond's Mill along the Stroudwater, the original meaning of the word Stroudwater, not the later Stroudwater Canal. If you think about it now, we get goods that come in from places like the Far East, from Australia. In fact, this microphone that I'm using now, built by Rode, is made in Australia, and I'm sure it arrived into the UK, port, probably somewhere like Southampton or Felixstowe, in containerised shipping. That is how the world economy functions, the movement of goods all around the world. But it was here in Gloucestershire that John Kemmett invented containerised movement of goods. Just an incredible, incredible concept. So apart from the two weirs, is there anything else that we can see of John Kemmett's canal? Well, yes, there is. This again is the Stroudwater. You can see we've had a lot of rain, so it's taken this bank here. But the Stroudwater is just over there. Although you can't see the water in it, taking me there is, it also flows that way. You can see a bank there that's covered in the trees, the leaf, the golden colours of the leaves, and just at the bottom of that is another section of the Stroudwater, the River Frome, that John Kemmett built. And unlike this one here, which does that across the fields, that one is dead straight. It's a canalised section of the River Frome and still exists, showing his history. Also further along the fields, it's really difficult to show because it's very muddy. There is a small arched bridge which went over the original route of the River Frome, but now it's almost dry. There is a little bit of water in it at the moment because of the rain that we've had, but it's kind of been left abandoned because of the work that John Kemmett did with building his new sections of his canal, the John Kemmett Canal, alongside the Stroudwater here in Gloucestershire. Now this weir here at Church End in the village of Eastington in Gloucestershire and the one at Bonds Mill are protected from English heritage. This one actually sits in private land. It's at the end of a cottage bordering onto the Eastington Park estate, so I can't access it to get a close-up shot. Well, using the telephoto, I can't get very close to it, but the next one we will do. So we're going to leave this site here at Eastington and head over to a place which is very industrial now and was then when John Kemmett built his canal, the place called Bonds Mill, which just sits outside of the town of Stonehouse. So I've now come around 3/4 miles to the east of Eastington village and the place called Bonds Mill, just to the south of the town of Stonehouse. It's now a large training estate, although you can still make out a lot of the old buildings, but they have been repurposed. I'm standing on top of Kemet's weir. Amazing, absolutely incredible building. Remnants of the weir here, still using its original purpose. Fantastic stone structures. You can see, can't you, just how old this is. It's absolutely incredible. And this, of course, predates our much better known and well known Stroudwater Canal. I'll just show you around here to get you a feel of basically why this was built here and how this system worked. So alongside me here is what's known as the Mill Race. This is the original route of the River Frome, flowing down from the Cotswolds and going straight underneath that mill there. We'll have a look at that shortly. And of course, John Kemmett, when he was building his canal, didn't want to disrupt the flow of the water going along here to power the mill. So he built his bypass, which came off here, turned off here underneath my feet, going through this weir, round there, and then joining a channel, another channel of the River Frome, which goes around the side of the mill and rejoins it, what's known as the tail race. His crane that I spoke about would have been around this area here, just to my right. I'll just show you that. No remains of it now because it's been completely repurposed for flood prevention works. But his original weir, though, is still very much in use. So our barge would have been parked around about this location here. To my left and to your right of the screen, the goods have been loaded right over my shoulder with the crane and then going into another barge here on this bypass channel going around the side of the mill. So this should give you a wider angle perspective of it. That's our mill race over there. This is our bypass channel coming through the weir here, and the crane, his crane for the operation, would have been pretty much where I'm currently standing. This is another look at the weir here, Kemmett's weir, from a different perspective. And you have this fantastic timber here, which I believe is the original timber that John Kemmett and his team would have put in to build his Kemmett Canal. It is rather eroded in places, but I think we have the original nails here, and the whole assembly is just fantastic. I believe English Heritage have now classed this as a Grade 1 structure, and they are fully aware of the significance and importance of its history relating to the containerisation and first containers moved from freight from one barge to another using a crane in this area, and the significance that that has to do with world history, starting right here in Gloucestershire. And just to show you quickly, this is a better view of our mill race and how the water goes underneath the mill here. We'll see if we can go around the other side of the mill to see where it comes out the other side and how that fits in to the rest of the connections to the various sections of the Stroudwater River. Now I'm currently standing on the corner of Mill Pond Car Park, which serves the needs of the present day workers of Bonds Mill on this bridge. And this is Kemmett's section of his River Frome, which goes alongside the mill, bypassing the mill itself, going underneath this bridge here, which of course added later to serve the needs of the car park, and joining up with the original section, one that runs parallel to the upper section of the River Frome. And that goes around in this direction. So his goods would have come alongside the mill here and then rejoined up with this section of the River Frome here, turning right. Let's see what happens next. And here we have the water coming out from underneath the mill. Remember, we saw it going into underneath the mill. This is the other side of the mill, is behind me here. And this is the coming out here. This is the undisturbed section of the River Frome, or the Stroudwater. And this carries on going down that way. And eventually it joins up with the section that I just showed you where I was standing on that bridge. So it's reconnected again, so disrupting. So he didn't need to build yet another channel to continue it all the way from Upper Frome connecting to the River Severn. But yes, this was his plan, to move goods here to these three mills, Frome Bridge, Church End, and this one here at Bond Mills. Absolutely amazing, and it's wonderful to see that weir close up. We couldn't get close to it at Church End, but it's brilliant to see it hasn't been destroyed and been rebuilt with a newer one, and the fact it's now got a preservation order courtesy of English Heritage, and they recognise its historical significance. So I've just come round to the side of the primary school here at Eastington, and this is the section of Kemmett's Canal. It is of course a section also of the Stroudwater, or the River Frome, but there is another river, another section of the River Frome behind the camera there, which goes round the churchyard here at Eastington. That's the original section. This is John Kemmett's handiwork, and of course it's much straighter than the one that twists and winds its way across the fields here at Eastington. Now unfortunately, John Kemmett's canal was not a great success. I think one of the reasons for that is that it was labour intensive and also structurally intensive, with all of those cranes and moving the containerised shipping out of the barges and re-putting them back in to appease the mill owners. However, he did cause an amazing event to happen by inventing containerised shipping. Although he didn't see the rewards of his own brilliant invention, he had been long dead before shipping went to that way. Well, later on in the latter part of the 19th century and throughout going into the 20th and 21st centuries, roll-on, roll-off ferries, all that kind of thing happens now because of John Kemmett, but his name is largely forgotten, as is his canal. We're all very familiar with the later Stroudwater Canal, which linked it with the Thames and Severn, but he built the very foundations and the concept of the idea. Now, his canal wasn't built out very far from Upper Frome, where it connects to the River Severn. Most historians agree that it finished around Bonds Mill, perhaps a little bit further on, where you can see evidence of a straightening of the River Frome about half a mile further to the east. Only 2 or 3 cranes were ever actually built, certainly one at Frome Bridge and the one here at Eastington. The one that we saw later at Bonds Mill, there is some doubt whether there was actually a crane placed in that general area. He kind of probably ran out of money, though he built the weir and his bypass channel around Bonds Mill. It looks doubtful that he ever got as far as building the crane in that location, although there is no fundamental agreement, because obviously we have no remains of that to go on these days because of, well, the rebuilding that's taken place. But it's brilliant to see that we have those 2 weirs still intact and still very, very visible, and also the straightened section of the River Frome as a legacy of the work of John Kemmett and a predecessor of what happened later on when the mighty Stroudwater Canal was built and then continued right on until 1954 when it was closed but all of that happened around the Stroud valleys and how it supported the mill owners then. A fascinating tale indeed, and one we're going to continue with, because this is part 1 of Secrets of the Stroudwater. There'll be another one coming up on West Country Wanderings in the not too distant future. If you like that sort of thing, please hit the subscribe bell and the bell, then YouTube will tell you when the next one lands. Thank you very much for watching today. Until next time on the channel, take care, all the best, bye bye.